guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 28th of July, 2019.
So this is very interesting. Listen to Enter is a Muslim immigrant, I believe in Finland, and he explains why the left needs migrants to stay as victims.
You say I am a Finn, but you're a refugee here, and the mainstream media, the left, all the people who embrace refugees, who say, more welcome, we must learn, we must help educate them, we must integrate, and you're, to me, then a perfect example of someone who is all those things, integrated, feels the country is the country, but they won't let you speak.
No, I have shouted years, I'm a leftist, I'm a liberal, I'm a secular, I'm a refugee. I got integrated in Finland, I'm highly educated.
And that's what they don't like.
He's obviously highly educated because if he's in Finland, he's obviously can speak English, Finnish, and his native language.
Amazing.
No, they do not like it because they want victims, they want teddy bears, they want something to signal their own virtue.
Yeah.
Once a refugee or an immigrant learns Finnish and speaks on behalf of himself, then you might realize that he has different ideas than you. So what we've seen, the people in Finland who shout their tolerance, like, oh, I'm so tolerant, mostly they tolerate people because of they're so different. Once you become like them, they will not tolerate you.
That's very interesting.
So they only tolerate difference.
They tolerate difference, but they can't tolerate anything that's approximation.
No.
Anything that is close to them.
No, and because I criticize the attitudes, like I've criticized positive racism a lot, like how they treat refugees and immigrants like children. I get that a lot. Like they treat me like a kid, not like a real adult.
Yes.
And that really
like you might not know what's best for you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. And they say this all the time. Oh, you're doing this and that. You're empowering those and this. And they're gonna say from this interview also that I'm empowering some kind of a right-wing racist.
Oh, you're fueling my agenda, my Nazi agenda.
And which is weird because, come on, if the mainstream media would let me talk, I wouldn't perhaps be here. I wouldn't, like, you wouldn't be the only person really actually interested in my cause. And that's the problem, because when the mainstream media doesn't actually allow integrated refugees to talk about their issues, of course we will talk with people who are actually interested in it, like you.
So that was the snippet there I wanted you to hear. Was that we call positive racism. And we see that a lot, but left worldwide. What they accuse you of is what you're guilty of. When I see an immigrant or I see an African or I see somebody coming over, I expect you to be able to be a good person. Yeah. I expect you to work hard. I expect you to be kind. I expect you not to to steal and to rape. I expect you to not need other people to put you through life. Yeah. Okay? And that is what we call equality. Yeah. But the leftists look at these Africans coming over, look at the Muslims coming over, and they treat them like children. They keep them in these boxes, but that's why the crime continues, because you're not holding them to the same accountability that you would a native born person or a white person. And the left is the greatest of all racists. And what I see on the right is it's like, hey, listen, if you're going to come into the country and you're going to just, you're going to embrace the country, wherever country you're in, and you're going to say, I embrace your values, okay? I want to be like you. I came here because I want to embrace and be like you and be like, and embrace your values. And then people don't have a problem. There would be absolutely no problem with any migration if they came in and they worked hard and they,
But history proves that. I mean, at least here in the United States, it proves that.
Yeah, because
that's how everybody.
And people really don't understand that anti-Catholicism, it was as bad as racism, because people were very. And rightfully so, leery of Catholics. And so the Irish came over, and the reason I believe that the Irish were treated like dirt was because they were Catholics, and so people were very leery, like, hey, I don't want you to really to be in power, because we know what happens when Catholics get in power. No offense to the Catholics, but like when we know what happens when you have the church and the state combined. And America was like, not going to happen. So we are partly of Irish origin with my grandma, Dyer, and she can attest to the fact that back through history, Irish Catholics were treated badly, but not anymore.
Right.
Because, oh my gosh, hey, look, Catholics aren't so bad. It was really actually the basis of the government that was bad, not Catholicism that was bad. It was the fact that Catholicism was combined with the government that made it bad, and people learn that. Now
because power corrupts.
And it's taken even time. You know, a lot of Catholics were leery of Protestants. And what we have in America right now, especially in the past 20 or 30 years, we have a unifying, we're Christians. Right? Whether you're Catholic, whether you're Protestant, we're Christians. Every once in a while, we'll let a Mormon come in. But, you know, Catholics and Protestants are Christians.
Right.
That was my joke of the day. Ba-boom ching. Not really a joke. All right. So, I think I'm going to play a little bit of this beginning one with Reese Moggs because he had people laughing.
He did.
Suggestion that I should replace Nanny with the staff in the leader's office. I think they might be a bit amused if 6 children trotted in with me and expected to be looked after by
He's
House
saying
of
get rid of the
Commons
nanny
staff.
for the kids.
I won't go down that route.
But see, there to the left, that lady was just laughing. They're all laughing on both sides. Back to what we were talking about earlier, the mood in the house has lifted.
Yeah. Well, because Reese Moggs and Boris are both hilarious. Even if you don't agree with them, they're funny.
It is available online for free. Now, I understand that opposition members view themselves as modern and cutting edge and thrusting, and that therefore going online may not be too problematic for them. Even I can do it occasionally myself. And if they don't want to do
about
that,
being tech savvy.
The Erskine May proper edition is available for £400 and may prove a good investment. The issue about the business that's being announced, it's being announced for a week. That has been standard practice for some time. I know historically it wasn't, but Mr. Speaker, you said yourself that convention had to evolve, and this is one of those conventions that has evolved, and now we merely have it for 1 week. The Honourable Lady also asked about the conference recess. The Honourable Lady knows that recesses are a matter for this House to determine, and no doubt through the usual channels a proposal will be made, though I do imagine that it will be convenient for members to be able to attend their own party conferences. That has been what has happened previously, and it tends to be to everybody's benefit. And I'm glad to see I see the Chief Whip for the Labour Party nodding, or at least appearing to nod at that. And so I think that there may be something forthcoming in due course. The issue of prorogation is absolutely marvellous, because the Honourable Lady asked for a new session and said when would this session end, and then asked me to promise we wouldn't prorogue. Well, we can't have both, because we can't get to a new session without proroguing. Though my right honourable friend the Prime Minister has said he views prorogation as an archaic mechanism and does not wish to see archaic mechanisms used, as I'm bound... As I am now bound by collective responsibility, that is now also my view.
So pause that really quickly, because sometimes for those of you that are from not the UK,
yeah, I'm sorry,
he's using words that even I have to look up. So prorogue means to discontinue a session of a parliament or other legislative assembly without dissolving it. When he was talking about these other MPs getting the Erskine May, that's a compilation of parliamentary rules and how things should be conducted and so on and so forth. So there are inside jokes that we're just not going to get.
We're not getting.
So carry on.
Well, yeah, exactly.
In regards to the Lord's message in relation to joint committee, that's obviously going to be looked into. We always wish to treat the other place with respect. I think that is an important way that we operate, and that will be taken care of in due course. And on the written ministerial statements, I mean, this really is your, I was going to use a word beginning with D and ending in M, with an ED on the end if you do, and the same if you don't. But Mr. Speaker might rule me out if I do say that, which I don't want to do on my first appearance at this dispatch box. The Parliament wants to know what's going on, and there is limited time for debates. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week gave me an urgent question on Batten disease. We know that the system for getting statements and urgent questions answered works, and therefore if there are issues that people wish to raise from the 70 written ministerial statements, there are mechanisms which the Honourable Lady is
it's not
extremely
bathroom
well aware
disease.
of.
It's I'm sorry. But just watching the subtitles that are just the computer's best way of I'm sorry.
It did say bathroom disease.
It did say bathroom disease.
All right, so you can watch it if you want to be in stitches and get a little British humor in there. Britt Baza keeps sending me these links, and it's really important worldwide. I think that the Hong Kong movement is not over. It's very much like the Yellow Vest movement. And they're trying to seize upon this to get their autonomy away from China. So we're going to see where this goes, because they've been waiting for a wave and a movement to get their autonomy, to get their freedom back from China.
Yeah.
Because remember, they were under British rule for so long, they know what freedom is. And to be under Chinese rule, they're kind of this quasi-state, where they have way more freedom than mainland China, but China is they're still part of China. So that thousands march in Hong Kong again.
Wow. It's incredible.
That way more than the Yellow Vest movement by far. I mean, like, I'd say a third of the city's marching.
Wow. And if you're on social media and you see Free Hong Kong, I mean, this movement is so huge, and it will be interesting to see how it turns out if they end up with the revolution that they want.
It's like if you and I, like, these people are Western in their mindset, and by Western I just mean freedom and democracy based.
Well, you saw some UK flags. Here's two USA flags.
They have USA flags. I get goosebumps. This is the Asian uprising, you could say, happening. This populist movement. I have goosebumps all over me. Not to be left out. The Asians, right?
Yeah.
You've got Bolsonaro in South America. You've got Salvini in Italy. You've got the Hungarians.
But what is
Eastern
it
Europe.
ultimately? It's a move of God.
It's a move of God.
And that's why you're seeing it everywhere.
Especially in Hong Kong. These are Christians mostly, and people, well, I wouldn't say they're mostly Christians, but remember, they did sing hymns and make the hymn their battle cry.
Yeah.
And if a hymn is your battle cry, you know you're on the right track.
Right.
Obviously you're going to have some bad actors in there, but by and large these have been extremely.
You are more inclined to hit those. On the second page of Google, right?
Hang on, Candace is playing.
Google understands this obviously human.
Let's try this again.
But they're fighting for the same thing that everybody else is fighting for, the government to take a step out of their lives.
I think that's a really good
And
point. Yeah.
and that's what we're all fighting.
Exactly.
Some to a greater extent than the rest of us.
Yeah. They were condemning and attacked by armed masked men. Let's see, in the Yangwei metro station.
Violent day of street clashes has finally come to an end. The protesters were here in their thousands, tens of thousands at the height, and have now finally been pushed by riot police, sort of block by block towards the train station, and they've left. And behind me, I'm sure you can see that the riot police too are now sitting down resting after having a full day of battles with
I'm going to take that back.
hardline protesters.
There's
throwing
some hardline protesters
bricks and other
there.
projectiles at them. They've responded by firing rubber bullets, tear gas, pepper spray, and it just shows yet again that these protests are escalating in terms of the level of violence. You know, a few weeks ago we saw the odd projectile maybe being thrown back at the police, but today there were a lot. You know, protesters came here geared up for battle really. Some had their homemade shields, their own gas masks, their own helmets. They knew there was going to be a big fight, and there's no sign of an end to this. We're now in the second month of this political crisis. The protesters have expanded what they're calling for. They initially were demanding that this bill be withdrawn, this unpopular bill allowing for people to be extradited to mainland Chinese courts controlled by the Communist Party. That bill is now effectively politically dead. Those mass street rallies featuring hundreds of thousands of people killed it. And yet, emboldened now, bolstered by that victory, if you like, they've decided to accelerate, and they're going in harder attacking the authorities. They believe the peaceful path doesn't work now. And for many, they think this is it. This is the fight for Hong Kong that had to come. And they're hoping somehow or other this will lead to genuine democratic elections here. But there's no sign that the government in Hong Kong, and especially in Beijing, will be prepared to grant them that. In fact, potentially it could go the other way. Imagine the Politburo Standing Committee in Beijing watching this rebellious city where tens of thousands of people are prepared to attend what is essentially an illegal gathering. The nuclear option.
It's an illegal gathering because they don't have the right to gather.
Yeah.
But before God, the rights of nature, and they have every right to gather. So what do you do when your city or whatever is part of, something bigger, a bigger communist party? What do you do when you're stuck and your weapons have been removed? You have no recourse. Is it that surprising to see them turn to a more aggressive approach than just assembling?
In all of the protests that I've seen around the world, I think that
this is the most peaceful I've seen.
Well, the Hong Kong people have the only right to throw off their government by means that are beyond elections because they don't have them.
Exactly.
So
what do they do if they don't have the elections? What are you supposed to do?
So as John Locke or as our declaration says, it's not for any light or transient means that you throw off said government. Our government has been encouraging overthrow of governments in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Our government has encouraged the overthrow of the government of Iran. Our government has encouraged the overthrow of the government in Syria.
Yep.
By violent means, and we have funded, especially in Syria and in Venezuela, people to do these things. Now,
Adeline says the Chinese invented gunpowder. I think they know how to make bombs.
I think that for Hong Kong, they are the only ones who have a legitimate reason. In France, you can vote your people out. Like you do have, unfortunately or fortunately, you do have a more democratic. You can vote. I mean, if you wanted to, Marine Le Pen could be your prime minister, your president. Okay.
Aside from election fraud, but I think that was only a very minor play in that election.
But they don't have democratic elections in Hong Kong. So Lord, we just lift up Hong Kong. Pray that you give them wisdom on how to get their freedom, and I pray that you allow the Christians to take the reins of this, because obviously if they get too violent, then China will come in and just shut them all down.
All right, we love you guys.
Okay, so
God bless.